Hello, grade 9 learners. My name is Thuto Masudubele, and you are welcome to the mathematics lesson on integers. The presentation outline is as follows. I'll be going over the introduction of integers with you. We'll be examining the number line. We'll be dealing with the addition of integers, defining additive inverses, dealing with the subtraction of integers, and lastly, there will be a quiz on integers at the end of the lesson. And now for the introduction. Imagine the atmospheric temperature dropping from 16 degrees Celsius at 1 o'clock on a winter's day to 0 degrees at 8 o'clock. At 2 a.m., the temperature had dropped further by another 5 degrees Celsius below 0 degrees Celsius, making it far colder than it was at 8 o'clock. What would the temperature be at 2 o'clock? Now this is where we have a new set of numbers called negative numbers, which are numbers that are less than 0. Negative numbers. Numbers less than 0 are called negative numbers, and numbers greater than 0 are called positive numbers. A positive number is written with the symbol plus in front of the number. For example, positive 4 can be written as plus 4 or merely as 4. A negative number is written with the symbol minus in front of the number. Negative 3 is written as minus 3. Set of integers. Integers are the set of all negative and positive whole numbers. We use the symbol Z to define the set of all integers. In set form, integers are written as Z is equal to all your negative and positive whole numbers. Let's look at the number line, grade 9 learners. In your earlier grades, you dealt with natural numbers, which are counting numbers starting at 1. You also dealt with whole numbers, which are all counting numbers including 0. Now suppose we start at 5 and subtract 1 to each successive term. If we subtract 1 from 5, what we get, you all know that we get 4, because 4 is 1 less than 5, meaning 4 is smaller than 5. We subtract 1 again from 4, we get 3. We subtract 1 from 3, we get 2. The numbers are getting smaller because we are subtracting from 1 from each successive term. We subtract 1 from 2, we get 1. We subtract 1 from 1, we get 0. Now what happens if we subtract 1 from 0? We get negative 1. Now negative 1 simply means is smaller than 0 on the number line. And notice that negative 1 is the mirror image of 1. We then proceed to subtract 1 from negative 1. What do you think we get? We get negative 2. And negative 2 is smaller than negative 1. And look at negative 2. It's exactly the mirror image of positive 2 on the number line. We subtract 1 from negative 2, we get negative 3. We subtract 1 from negative 3, we get negative 4. Remember, the numbers are getting smaller and smaller as we subtract. So therefore, on the number line, the further we move to the left, the smaller the numbers become. We then subtract 1 from negative 4, we get negative 5, meaning negative 5 is significantly smaller than 1 on the number line because it's further to the left. We then subtract 1 from negative 5, we get negative 6, which is smaller than negative 5. We continue to subtract 1 from negative 6, we get negative 7. We subtract 1, we get negative 8. As you notice, negative 8 is the mirror image of positive 8. And again, negative 8 is significantly smaller than all the other integers we've already written on the number line. And if you continue to do so, the numbers will continue to get smaller and smaller and smaller till negative infinity. Now, what can we say about the number line? We can say that the further we move to the right on the number line, the bigger the number becomes. And conversely, the further we move to the left on the number line, the smaller the number becomes. So very important that you remember that concept. 3 minus 5 on the number line, simply meaning that you want to decrease 3 by 5 units. We start at 3, we want to decrease 3 by 5 units. It means which direction are we going to move? We are going to move to the left. If you move to the left by 5 units, we land exactly at negative 2. So therefore, the value of 3 minus 5 will be equal to negative 2. Now we want to find the value of negative 8 plus 10 minus 5. Simply means that we start at negative 8 and we add 10 units. Because we want to add 10 units, simply means that we move to the right by 10 units. If we move to the right by 10 units, having started at negative 8, we land exactly at 2. And now that we're at 2, we want to subtract 5 from 2. So then what do we do? Because we are subtracting 5 from 2, we're making 2 smaller. We move to the left by 5 units, and that lands us at negative 3. So therefore, the value of negative 8 plus 10 minus 5 will give us negative 3. Now let's look at the identity element of a number and the additive inverse. The identity element of a number simply states that when you add 0 to any number, the number will remain unchanged. For example, negative 8 plus 0 still remains as negative 8, and 15 plus 0 still remains as 15. Now let's look at additive inverses. Two numbers that add up to 0 are being referred to as additive inverses. Now let's look at 3. What would be the additive inverse of 3 on the number line? Check the mirror image of 3 on the number line, and that would be negative 3. So negative 3 is being regarded as an additive inverse to 3. You add the 2, you will always get 0. We look at negative 27. What is the additive inverse of negative 27 on the number line? We check the mirror image of negative 27 on the number line, and that would be positive 27. You add the 2, and then we get to 0. So remember, when you add two numbers that are additive inverses of each other, the answer will always be 0. Subtraction of integers. To subtract an integer is the same as to add its additive inverse. For example, if you have 2 minus negative 5, you will have 2 plus 5. Why? Because we are subtracting negative 5 from 2. It's exactly the same as to add the additive inverse of negative 5. And what's the additive inverse of negative 5? That is positive 5. So 2 minus negative 5 can also be written as 2 plus 5, because we are adding the additive inverse of negative 5, and that will give us 7. Let's apply the knowledge we've gained to calculate the following. Negative 21 plus negative 3 minus negative 4. We'll have negative 21 minus 3 because we're making negative 21 less by 3 units. And then because we are subtracting from an integer, it's the same as adding its additive inverse. And the additive inverse of negative 4 will be positive 4. Now negative 21 minus 3 will give us negative 24. And negative 24 plus 4 will then give us negative 20. And the last question for the lesson, we have 3 cubed minus the square root of 16 minus 10. 3 cubed is the same as 3 multiplied by itself 3 times, and 3 cubed will give us 27. The square root of 16 will give us 4. The order of operations tells us that we must evaluate the expression that's inside the brackets first. So 4 minus 10 will give us negative 6. And because we are subtracting from an integer, it's the same as adding its additive inverse. The additive inverse of negative 6 will give us positive 6. So we'll have 27 plus 6, and 27 plus 6 will give us 30. That brings us to the end of our lesson, grade 9 learners. That is the QR code that will take you to the quiz. Good luck.